Please welcome to the stage Senior Director, Office of Innovation at Salesforce, Harpreet Khurana.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to be with you. My name is Harpreet Khurana. I am a Senior Director in the Office of Innovation at Salesforce. It's great to be here at the inaugural TrailheaDX event in India. I want to start by thanking you. This is our first Trailhead event in India, and just seeing the energy and the enthusiasm outside and in the city in general has been wonderful. This show would not be possible without your participation, so thank you. I've been in the blockchain space for about 2 years, and there's a lot of hype about blockchain. It's not easy to tell what's real, what's the hype, and we are hoping today in the next 50 minutes or so, we'll give you a grounding on what blockchain is, what it can currently do, and then give you an example of a real Trailblazer customer who's using blockchain to fundamentally change their business. To me, the slide up there was the way to kind of say, hey, that quote really captured it, right? Never have so many people sought so much from a technology that's understood by so few, and we hope we'll dispel some of the myths around blockchain. Any conversation around blockchain has to start with data. We all know we are living in a hyper-connected world, and the pace of acceleration of change is only getting faster. One estimate says that by the year 2025, we will have 10 internet-connected devices for each human on this planet. Just think about it. I grew up in Bombay, and when I was in college, I would connect through a dial-up VSNL modem into a text-only internet. What I did on the internet will stay secret. Those were different days. But from that point to a world where we'll have 10 internet-connected devices by year 2025 is an amazing acceleration. What is equally amazing is the amount of data that is being created by these connected devices. And that data is further accelerating the pace of change. But hang on, reality check. As the volume of data is increasing, are we falling in the trap of creating more data silos? Each of our companies has to deal with different parts of the value chain, the suppliers, the distributors, and so on. Are we doing a good job of connecting all those data flows? Or are we creating more data silos? That is a primary consideration. And the reason to make that point more clear, data has a very unique ability of spawning feedback loops. What do I mean by that? All of us have online data. We do the data that we create from our online activities. That gets fed into algorithms that creates insights, and that drives personalization and customization that we all love and care for, right? And that creates more data, and so goes the flywheel. If data is siloed, then you don't get this wonderful sort of magic flywheel that makes data so much more powerful. So can we imagine a world where not just there is a point-to-point integration between the different parts of your enterprise's value chain, but there's a trusted exchange of information? Ultimately, what do we all want? What do all the people on this slide want? All these stakeholders need one thing. They want to drive a superior customer experience. And how can we create this trusted network to make exactly that happen? Another way to ask the same question is, how might we get the benefits of data feedback loops in a decentralized environment, right? In an environment where data is crossing enterprise or trust boundaries. That is the primary question that a lot of you and your CIOs and CTOs are thinking about. This is not an original question. We've been asking this question for a while, and we've come up with many network topologies to make this happen, right? And each topology has positives and negatives. In the peer-to-peer model, it's a very simple, elegant model, but guess what? It doesn't scale. As you add more nodes, it doesn't really scale. Hub and spoke, much more throughput, Certainly an improvement from the peer-to-peer model, but guess what? The hub controls the destiny of all the spokes, right? If there's a change in the terms of service in the hub, it impacts potentially negatively all the spokes. Protocols are a great step up, right? They often use open source technology, but what we have seen in the past is there have been so many protocols for so many different use cases, and it's created this challenge of interoperability challenges between protocols, right? So how do we take these approaches and try to improve upon that? And with that context, you should be thinking about blockchain. So blockchain is a special new kind of database that has 3 superpowers. Number 1, it's distributed. What that means is each participant of the blockchain network has a copy of the data. So you're not reliant on only one company controlling the network. All of the participants have a copy of the data. The distribution of data means the distribution of trust. Property number 1, distributed. Property number 2 is verified. You cannot commit a transaction or write to the database without a majority, if not all of the participants agreeing and validating that this is a valid transaction. So if you have a bad actor or a malicious actor trying to throw in some transactions that are not valid, because everyone gets to see what is coming into the blockchain network with the right level of permission, of course, they can validate if this is the right kind of transaction or not, thereby increasing the quality of the data in the blockchain network. So that's number 2. Number 3 is secured. Data is stored cryptographically in a way that if one node in the blockchain network goes down, that does not compromise the whole system, right? So distributed, verified, secured. With these 3 properties, we have the potential to create a trusted, because everything is getting validated, transparent, everybody's looking at the transactions, and a tamper-proof way of operating your workflows. And once that happens, once you create this flow in a system that cuts across enterprise and trust boundaries, then you might be able to tap into the data feedback loops that we think are very important to drive your business. Okay? All right. So we've got some grounding on what blockchain is, but then the question we get a lot is, how do I know what is a blockchain use case? How do I sense a blockchain use case? And there are multiple ways to do this. We ask our clients to look at 3 questions, right? So let's look at it together. Do you need a blockchain? Question number 1, are you operating a multi-party cross-organization application? Yes or no? If there is data coming in from different organizations, you might be looking at a blockchain use case. Not enough, but at least you're on the right track. Question number 2, do more than one participant contribute data? Not just listen to data or read data, but write data to the network. So it's a multi-party application, a workflow, and more than one participant contributes to the network. Again, if the answer to both those 2 questions, it's not necessarily you've got a blockchain use case, but you're getting closer. The third question is, does your organization need to keep a copy of your data? This could be for regulatory reasons, competitive reasons, and so on. If the answer to all these 3 questions is a yes, then there's a chance you've got a potential starting point for a blockchain use case. But blockchain, with all the hype, is not easy to do, right? Implementing blockchain is hard. In addition to the typical skills gap issue that you run into when a new technology comes to bear, there's a few specifics in the blockchain space that makes it a little more challenging. One is, try to make different participants from different organizations agree on a shared data model. Not an easy job. It can be challenging, right? What are the governance? Who gets to see what data under what circumstance? Not an easy challenge, but can be solved. So setting up this governance, super important. It's not just you have to onboard the participants once. You have to continue to incentivize them to be active on the network, right? To contribute to the network, because the power of the network is as good as the data that is flowing inside it. So onboarding and continuous incentivization is super important. a lot of blockchain systems right now don't have a very compelling UX layer, right? A lot of them are still command line, green screens, not very compelling to get users to adopt that technology, right? How do we get the right UX experience for the end users? And then finally, if you've created this wonderful blockchain network and it's not connected to the rest of your workflow, your centralized data, guess what? You've created another data silo. Not ideal. So how do you make sure you integrate all of that blockchain data into your non-blockchain data? Those are some challenges you need to think about once you identify a potential blockchain use case. We looked at this, and a few months back, this is not GA yet, but we announced Salesforce Blockchain, which is anchored around 3 design principles. 1, we want to bring the same declarative point-and-click interface and experience of Salesforce to blockchain. So if you are an admin, you are able to create a blockchain network, give the permissions, create the data model, provision the node, all with drag and drop and clicks. So you've created the network. Now what? You've got to connect it with the rest of the Salesforce platform. How do you take the blockchain data and your proprietary data and power marketing journeys? Make your analytics more powerful, make your Einstein more reliable, right? Connecting it with the rest of platform services. And finally, we know that the real power of blockchain lies by connecting your entire value chain, your entire supply chain. And as much as we'd like for all of those players to be on Salesforce, we know that's not always going to be the case. So we allow out-of-the-box APIs and UX templates to connect to even third parties who are not on the Salesforce platform. So we are genuinely trying to make this open so you can invite people, non-Salesforce participants, to use the Salesforce blockchain. Let's take a quick look under the hood a little bit. So we are starting at the bottom with the Hyperledger Sawtooth, which is an open source project. We're using the goodness of some of the components from Hyperledger Sawtooth, but then we are building metadata services on top of that. The builder, like I said, was creating a point-and-click interface to create the partner network, provision the nodes, and so on. The blockchain connect connects the blockchain to the rest of the platform, the customer 360 capabilities, and blockchain engage gives you APIs to connect to third-party systems and so on. So we are pretty excited about this. I think this is a new way to think about blockchain. I think this takes into account things that are working in the enterprise blockchain space and things that are not. But don't take our word for it. We are very excited. We opened a design partner program where we've invited some select customers globally to participate in this. And we're very fortunate to have one of our trailblazing clients and an individual within that client who's been working with us on the blockchain POC. So please put your hands together in inviting Jafar Shah Jahangir, Senior Director, Senior Architect and Development Manager for IQVIA Technologies. While Jafar Shah comes up, when I started working with IQVIA, I did not know who they were, complete honesty. I had not heard their names. And then one stat came to me, which woke me up. IQVIA processes more transactions in a day than Google. With that, I think it's a perfect setup for Jafar Shah.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much. Thank you so much. Hey guys, good morning. I'm Jafar Shah Jahangir. I'm a Senior Architect and Development Manager. I represent IQVIA Technologies here. I just want to give us a hint of what we do in the healthcare industry. So we call ourselves a human data science company. And we are a world leader in most of the things. It's actually a combination of 2 companies, IMS Health and Quintiles. Okay, IMS Health was the services part of the healthcare world, and Quintiles was the research part of the healthcare world. And this combination has worked out pretty well for us. And what actually we do is to help our customers answer few questions, few precise questions with relevant insights so they can make better decisions. That's what we do. Okay? And how do you do that? We're going to talk a lot about human data, human health data today. So human health data is increasing in such a way that if you were to put the store human health data in an iPad and stack the iPad, you'd be reaching moon in a couple of years. How good is that? what does that tell us? That puts us in a position to try to tap into that human health data to find out the hidden insights, right, about the complexity of our understanding about how to prevent an illness or how to cure an illness, how to find out ways or cure to actually get around the illness, how to build our knowledge graph around the illness. That's what we do in and day out. So our customers come back to us and ask, OK, can you tell us what mutation in a gene can cure this disease? Or can you tell us what kind of medication works for a particular client or for a particular patient? What not? And what not is important because that summarizes our understanding of the complexity of the healing process, right? Now, how do we do that? How do we answer so much questions? We have many customers asking precise questions, needing insightful data to make better decisions. Let me bring up a story, right? So there was a lady who was pregnant with a twin, and the twin B was having a rare disease. Okay? Now the options were laid out before the lady, and to find out what next, because there is a healthy twin A, right? And what should happen to the twin B? A lot of options were laid out, and now this opens up a lot of questions. As you see, how do we bring them out to the world, safe and secure, right? And still managing and maintaining the health of the 3 individuals involved, right? 3 patients involved. And that was put to us, and we solved that with our intelligence, right? So we have built this intelligence with 60 years of our healthcare experience, okay? And these are the 4 quadrants around which we exist. I'll just walk you through the 4 quadrants. We have a humongous domain expertise, okay, which means we have around 1,400 doctors working for us, medical doctors. We have around 6,000 doctorates, PhDs around therapeutical areas working for us. And this is humongous, right? And what we do with them, we club them with the transformative technologies, and that's where Salesforce comes in, right? Salesforce is one of our one trusted, preferred platform that we build these healthcare platforms, right? And we transform the domain expertise into something that is insightful and apply advanced analytics on top of it, right, to give meaningful results. Now, let me go back to the next slide, which talks about the unparalleled data, which would give you the amount of data that we hold. It is proud, but what we do with this data, right? We hold the planet's largest healthcare data, 30+ petabytes of data, and growing, okay? We receive 1 million data feeds a day. That puts us in a position to claim that we process more transactions than Google per day, from 140,000 data suppliers. Now, and yeah, these are the, we work with 16 million healthcare professionals who try to make sense of this data and to design innovative solutions for the relevant questions we ask. I think I always would say to my team that these relevant questions answered right would give us more questions to be answered. Relevant questions answered right, which will trigger us to give a proper insight. Let's go back to the case of the pregnant lady. We did it. We laid out the options of few clinical trials that are happening. The same case was existing somewhere in Africa. We laid out that case to that lady, and now all the 3 are doing good, which is wonderful. Thanks to our IQVIA code that we have built over 60 years, which is added to our intelligence. Now, IQVIA core is our purpose-built asset that powers every solution that we have. Now, moving on to data, we own the planet's largest data, and we drive a lot of questions to be answered. We also try to shorten the clinical trial. Any idea of how much time a clinical trial happens? What is the stretch? It takes 12 years on average for a clinical trial to finish. 12 years. Now, can we wait for 12 years for a cure to come in, or for a treatment to come in? No. So that's what we do. We do day in and day out. We try to reduce the time frame that it takes for a clinical trial to to happen. Now, we exchange a lot of data over it, and that's exactly where blockchain comes into picture, right? When you exchange data. Now, let's say I'm getting data from a different person. Now, the first question I ask is, should I trust the data, right? Should I really trust the data? And I'd say yes and no. And that's where it opens up the market for the intermediaries who come in and who say that, OK, I'm going to help you trust the data, right? So we have almost every industry working on intermediaries: banking, insurance, drugs, healthcare. Every industry works on intermediaries. Now, when you look at this many staggering amount of data, and you want to build some application on top of it, which actually spawns across industries and spawns across parties, I would like you to think about three important things. And this is the three-circle: why, how, and what. If it reminds you of Simon Sinek, you're right. Okay? The why, let's consider the why, the core circle. Immutability, transparency, single version of truth. Let me get into my architect shoes a while. Immutability, I think immutability has solved a lot of problems in the industry. I'm sure most of you are programmers here. We have solved a lot of immutable ways of triggering it. And you need to think about, OK, what is in your domain that actually solves these three questions: immutability, transparency, and single version of truth. What is that you want in your domain to fix? And those objects are the right objects to get into blockchain. Okay? And these are the objects that are watched over and over by the regulatory writers, okay? by the regulatory authorities who would do that. Okay? Now, what blockchain brings to us, it gives us it enables us to build trusted systems that work between parties, that work between multiple parties, right? Okay, so we talked about domain objects, domain entities with these three characteristics. It also helps us to prove the provenance of them, okay, which is very important, right? So let's say I give a drug today. We need to know where the drug started till it reaches the patient. We have an interesting use case. We'll talk about it. But we need to know that. So that's what provenance gives. And blockchain gives these capabilities: decentralization, disintermediation, trusted, non-repudiation, provenance out of the box. You don't have to build it. So that is exactly something that I want you to take away from here, because we build the systems today in our software. We deliberately spend time to build this. You don't have to do that when you're on blockchain. We are going to discuss about three important use cases that we are doing in IQVIA today. One is the drug supply chain. I think we touched about it a bit. And let's say a drug, you want to give the visibility of a drug from the warehouse to the patient. How good it is, right? You get a drug, and you just open your mobile or some device. You can find out where it originated, who did research on it, right? And more part of it, you may not know, certain drugs can create something called adverse events. Okay, you know what an adverse event is? It can be, there would be some associated illness to it. You could find out that adverse events by looking at this use case. And one is, it's not a fake data. It is real data. It is trusted data that's coming out of it. So we're trying out this use case. Moving on to the next use case, which I personally connect with, is Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is an AI problem that we are trying to solve also. Now, the problem with Alzheimer's is that it's so difficult to create a clinical trial for Alzheimer's, because you need to understand which patient or which individual may get Alzheimer's in 4 years or 3 years. It's so difficult, and that's why we write this AI algorithms to make sure we feed in all these MRI scans and to find out. We have proprietary software to do that. And here, what it happens is, how do you securely collect that data from different sources? That's exactly what we're trying to do with blockchain. Still, maintaining the anonymity. So anonymity is very important, because we uphold the privacy of a patient to multiple bounds. So anonymity blockchain gives us that anonymity. And also, right, we can find out where this data is exposed to. For example, this data can be exposed to a research industry, or it can be exposed in an academic industry. So the patients who are exposing the data knows where it is actually exposed to through blockchains. Right? Moving on to the last, an interesting use case of health initiative. We have all this data again. We are trying to create a data exchange. We call it provider data exchange, which gives the patients a good information about the healthcare providers around. They don't have to look forward. They don't have to really look into any of the system. And what we provide is the trusted way of where the patients can get the healthcare data. All the 3 cases done, and now we are going to the most exciting thing that we built with Salesforce. Again, thanks Salesforce for being an amazing partner to us in this. And this is what I'm involved in currently. We did this use case with Salesforce. Moving on to the use case, we have something called prescription drug label, the thin sheet that comes out of any prescription drug that you get. I think you all might have seen it. You all might have personally connected to it. Not sure how many of us read it, but we are connected to it, right? Every drug that you get out of the market or a medical store has this label. Now, what happens when this changes? We'll come to that later. But before that, we'll find out the different documents that actually, have a say on this drug label. This drug label is an end product, right? After all these documents put together and after a business process, a complex business process comes into place, I'll just walk you through the few things. Like CCDS is the Bible for a drug. It's called company code data sheet. It's the Bible for a drug. And let's say a drug is out to the market and an adverse event happens. Unfortunately, someone has died. Now, FDA regulation mentions that adverse event has to be analyzed and the drug label has to be changed. Now, you don't have any idea about what happens when this drug label is changed. There are around 20+ different companies involved, different parties involved, and IQVIA as a company is driving this, and there are 20+ parties involved, and who exchange data between them because it's highly regulated, right? It's going to affect, I may be analyzing one adverse event, but it's going to affect 1,000 more. Right? So that is the sheer amount of the connection that this drug label has. They exchange documents between them. They talk over phones today. They exchange over emails. Right? That's what is happening. So the problem, let's define the problem statement. The problem statement is there's no formal system today to manage these changes. Right? So what happens? That actually adds up to the process. There's no formal system today. Right? And there is no collaboration. There is a lot of moving parts in this. The documents move here and there. The changes move here and there. Right? There is no collaboration across these moving parts. And obviously, if there's no collaboration, there is obviously no orchestration also. Right? So what we did is, this is how it looks right now, the drug label change and the different actors in this system, the different personas in the system. The project manager, I just walk through a few things. The project manager who's the one who is from IQVIA that runs the drug label change. And we have medical writer who is actually authoring the change. And we have the regulatory affairs writer who would also author but also reviews the change. Right? And these people are from different companies. Only the project manager is from IQVIA and these are from different companies. And we have the artists who work on the label change also. That is from a different company. You got it? Now we are talking about a multi-party system, right? And who actually wants to contribute to the label change, but still there is no process involved. So this is a very good use case for blockchain. And it's one of the complex use cases of blockchain because it involves files. Not many file use cases are available in blockchain. So we took that as a challenge. We partnered with Salesforce, and this is what it became after, right? It's more streamlined now. What we achieved is we streamlined the drug label change process, right? Now, how do we do that? So I'll just walk you through a few things. So one is the notification service, which happens when a new drug label event is created, and there's a preparation service, which actually, there's a validation, sorry. There's a validation service which actually validates the event, and there's a preparation service which actually prepares these documents for the label change, and so on, so forth. Let's get into the layers one by one, right? So this is the service layers we discussed. I know some of you are architects here. So the idea is, this layer should be pluggable, right? And with microservices coming in, you could plug in AI services also, right? You could plug in your legacy service here. Maybe you have a mainframe system that stores things, So this layer is about services, pluggable services, right? Now moving on, we have the blockchain server, which is the core of this component. Now, now we're talking about three main players in this proof of concept. One is the IQVIA, which is the driver of label change. One is a pharma company, which is actually wants the label change to be done in one of its drug. And the FDA, which is a regulator, right, who wants to see what's happening. It's not that today. Today, what we do when a label change is done, we create, the pharma companies create tons of documents to be presented to FDA to find out whether it's good or not, right? Now let's see how it changes with blockchain. Now these are the nodes. These are three different nodes listening to their own applications, right? Now the third layer, which I want to talk about, is the integration layer, the intelligent orchestration layer, which actually is the intelligence behind what happens when something happens in the network. Okay? So now this is going to help us in validating these things. The orchestration layer is something to be looked at. Okay, it's going to be dynamically invoking the service as and when needed, right? Now here we go, how we have achieved it in Salesforce, right? So the orchestration layer was supported by Salesforce Flow, and the business service execution layer was supported by the Salesforce engagement. So here's where your Lightning components, all the applications go. Even you could call your AI services using Einstein, whatnot, right? And third one, which is very important, we created a data transparency and integrity layer through Salesforce Blockchain. Now, the scope of the prototype is we only concentrated on the first three services, the notification service, the validation service, and the preparation service, which is what we'll see in the demo in a short while. Okay? Okay, so let's get into the demo now. I'll give you a brief overview of what's going to happen in the demo. I'm sure you're all excited, as I am, to see the demo happening. So there are three user personas here, right? So one is the pharma company itself, okay, for which the label change has to be done for one of its drug. The center you see IQVIA, which is the driver for the label change event, right? And the third one is the FDA, which is going to be a constant overlooker for all these things that are happening on the label change process. Okay? Now let's get into the demo. I have Chanakya here. Thanks, Chanakya, for being here. Please give a good round of applause, guys. Yeah, I have Chanakya here who would help us with the demo. Let's get into the demo now. Yeah, so what you see here is three different portals. The big one is one with the pharma company, right? And there are, towards right, you see two more portals. The first one is IQVIA, right? And the second one is the FDA, which is going to be overlooking at these events. Now let's try to create a drug label change. Okay. Oh, yeah, that comes up. So a drug label change is identified by unique ID because it's going to be transferring between different organizations, right? Now let's go to the next. You check that. Now there are different cases wherein you could actually do a drug label change. One is the new drug label change, which is you start with a comment, or it can be say from the regulatory authority to do so. Let's pick the first one and go on. Okay, there you go. So now this lands in a different page, which the pharma company will choose which drug the drug label has to be administered to. Now let's enter a comment and let's proceed. Wonderful. So that's comment is entered. Now I want you to focus on the other two orgs. The other two orgs are listening to blockchain events now. The events have not happened yet. Okay, we have not pushed anything to the blockchain. Other two orgs are listening to it. Now let's go to the next. Let's try to push it to the blockchains. Oh, yeah, this is one that we verify the transactions. I mean, verify what is entered. Let's get into blockchain now. Okay, there you go. Yeah, now the request has been sent to blockchain. Now what's happening? The request from the pharma company org has entered the blockchain. It's going to be replicated instantly to the different orgs that are listening to it. In this case, the two orgs. Now let's see when it happens. Your record is immutably logged. And there you go. So the two orgs are reflecting the change now. This has not happened before. This has not happened. This is trusted. This is on blockchain, so no one can change it, right? Okay, now the blockchain event is registered. Now other orgs or listening to it. FDA is listening to it, which is very important. And on the other hand, IQVIA is also listening to it. So we know that a new drug label has to be administered, right? Now let's focus on the IQVIA R. And before that, I think there's an automation validation check that has to happen. We made it automated because, let's say, any one of our partnering companies administering a drug label change has to be verified. Right? So there's an automation step happening, which is happening right now, which is an automated step. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's automated. Okay? So this is an automated step. It can be a manual process also. It can be an AI service that is running behind. But what we have done is we have automated a verification step. Now let's get to the IQVIA. Now IQVIA, the onus is with the IQVIA org. We are here. There we are. If you look at it, this is IQVIA portal, which listens to IQVIA org on a blockchain. Now it's replicated. Now let's get into the label change event, which is a blockchain connected object. Okay, we have created using blockchain manager, and it's a blockchain connected object. Now you could see this is what you're seeing is the blockchain timeline view, okay, which talks about two changes that happened. The first change is the one that is entered by the pharma company, right? And the second one is a validated one, which is done. So if you could change, you could see the status is validated, version 2. And this is the same view that the FDA gets. We don't have to present it to FDA because FDA is seeing that as and when it happens. It's real time, the FDA is seeing, and FDA is trusting it. And believe me, FDA is actually investing a lot in blockchains now because it wants blockchain-driven solutions. We all have massage data for audits at some point of the time, is it not? You go for a project audit, we try to massage data, right? You cannot do that in blockchain. That's what FDA is counting on. Now, let's go up to the form. So if you can see that it has also opened a preparation request, which is a manual request. It's a flow component, right? A lightning component. And now the status is not started. Let's make it started. Let's make it in progress, which opens up the case for uploading documents. So now the IQVIA person, who's a medical writer, in this case Derek, right? He needs to find out the right CCDS document and upload it. Okay, what CCDS is doing? CCDS is a Bible of a particular drug, and it's getting uploaded now. It's uploaded. Now, then we need to find out, okay, to which regions this drug label change is going to affect. We are going to choose two regions, US and France in this case, and try to upload the supporting documents, right, for this. And it is getting done as we speak. Okay, it's done. So we are almost to the end of the, the preparation request. Now let's click next. I think we are done with that. Okay, now there's a third object that is created. The third bar that is created, which says it is researched, meaning all the files are uploaded, and now it is actually can be taken up for actual change. Okay, and that brings us to an end to the demo. Thanks, Chanakya, for putting a good show. Thanks for making it look easy. Okay, thank you. So again, talking about the architecture, we have three-layer architecture, and great architectures emerge when individuals come together, right? And this is exactly our partner has revealed us. And this is three-layer architecture that we've created. There is a previous architecture, if you want to visit one of our videos in YouTube that we presented in Trailhead San Fran 2019, which talks about the different, the previous version of this architecture. Have a visit at it. Go for YouTube and check IQVIA Blockchain Salesforce. You'll get that video. Okay, you'll see me talking there as well. So it is the first layer is the orchestration layer, which invokes the business services simultaneously, and everything is collected. Every information is connected in immutable data sharing. As my boss Malcolm Postings puts it, this is collaborative coding, which has not existed before. Collaborative coding, how good is that, right? Okay, so that brings us to the summary for what you have done. So from the problem statement of no formal system for managing changes, we have now created a blockchain solution which is evidence-based, a trust-based system, which supports provenance. So I can look at who created a label change, what is the current state of the label change. And we are also using blockchain as an engine that drives the application state across organizations, right? And what's the outcome of it? We have created a controllable, pluggable services architecture. Feel free to read about this architecture. We have posted this on our site. Extensible points to integrate the in-house intelligence and legacy systems, AI systems, for example, hosted on a multi-party evidence-driven solution, right? That brings us an end to the session. Thanks so much for the thing. I would request Harpreet again to the stage. Thanks, Harpreet.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jafar Shah. I think there are two things. First of all, I think he deserves a round of applause. Let's make that happen. I know it's after lunch. I think what I saw was the complexity, the domain expertise that was needed to get this done. And one of the things we come across is doing a blockchain POC just for the sake of saying you're doing blockchain. The ability to integrate it and make it so particular about your specific business process, I think that really stood out to me in this process, in this demo. So thank you, Jafar Shah, that was great. Okay. We have a couple of minutes. I just want to ask you a few questions. So you work with emerging technologies. How did you think about using blockchain as a technology in the first place? What got you thinking about blockchain?
That's a great question. So we always work with multiple parties, and the multiple parties want trust built in the system. And sometimes you also work with new parties, and there is no established trust with them before. Right. And that's exactly where blockchain comes into picture, because blockchain gives you a trusted network where untrusted parties can talk to each other, can exchange data, can exchange results, right. and yeah, that's actually prompted us to use blockchain.
Makes sense.
To try out blockchain in this case.
And I know you have used different blockchain technologies. You've worked with Ethereum, I'm told.
Yes.
So you've been working with Salesforce Blockchain. What stood out for you that was an improvement, better or not?
Yeah, the previous version of it was an Ethereum-driven JavaScript, Node.js, UI, UX and stuff. But with blockchain, I mean, with Salesforce coming in, it was click, not code.
Right.
And so we could actually represent the domain without the harness of the technology itself, right? So for example, we created objects in the blockchain manager. It was just a click to connect them to blockchain and expose them in blockchain engage. So it actually connected well. We actually did this in 4 months of time, if you will, right? So it's very fast. And the previous one was staggeringly time consuming, because we have to actually venture into the technology itself to do things working for us.
Yeah. Okay, last question. A lot of folks in the audience are developers, admins, enthusiasts about new technology. If they, on their own time or for their enterprises, are thinking about blockchain, what are 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give them?
Yeah, one. So my first blockchain, I mined my first blockchain transaction in way back in 2017 end, right? It was an Ethereum running. I was demonstrating to my group of VPs, and who literally clapped when we mined the first one. Now getting to that mode is a little difficult, because it's so difficult to create that environment, to venture into blockchain. That's exactly where Salesforce come in. If you have a Salesforce ecosystem, it's so easy to get into this environment. Okay? I thank Salesforce for that, because blockchain was a natural extension, not a venture. Right? So that was wonderful. I mean, that's exactly worked very well for us.
Okay.
Yeah. So keep these 3 things: immutability, single version of truth and transparency into your domain, and then you're into blockchain already.
Wonderful.
Right? Yeah.
Thank you. You made this wonderfully accessible. You made it honestly fun. I didn't think drug label change could be fun, but you made it happen. I know I look at drug labels a little differently after this presentation. I actually read them, and I have a deeper appreciation for everything that's going on in here. Thank you for your time, and let's put our hands together for Jafar Shah.
Okay.
And if you're interested in more blockchain, we have a booth outside. There's a demo running. Make sure you go there. And Jafar Shah and I will hang out for the next few minutes if you want to have any questions. Thank you, and have the rest of a good rest of the day.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for showing up.